So I did my case study on craft breweries, their impact in North Carolina, their growth, as well as the ecological impact they may have. Real quick, why is this important? What does beer have to do with anthropology and the environment? Well, beer has been produced by humans since the start of civilization, dated back to the rise of Ur consumer 6,000 years ago. There's even, according to Smith, an anthropologist, Solomon H. Katz, who claims that beer was a stumbling accident that caused early crop cultivation and eventually developed commodity living. What he essentially claims is that because beer was found on accident and people liked it, they needed crops to grow it and consume it, and this created an agriculture system, a trading system that eventually led to the rise of life in sumer. It's a very broad claim. Throughout history, beer and beer production have been a key cultural commodity and icon. And recently, North Carolina has experienced a big industry boom. And the reason why it ties into local interactions and local politics. Local politics was demonstrated in my case study in the way that the whole reason that craft breweries are so popular now was because of a legislature that was passed in 2005. This legislature increased the percent of alcohol allowed in beer from 6% to 15%, which is a big increase. 15% opened the gate, allowed brewers to create IPAs, which is Indian Pale Ales, hobby beer, a lot of beer that they wouldn't be able to be produced before, as well as other distillers to create new malt products. This law was pushed by a grassroots movement and a coalition of homebrewers and small businessmen, and it faced a lot of opposition from wholesale distributors. They claimed that because craft brewers would increase and there'd be more craft breweries and more competition, their sales would decrease. They were the main opposition. So what does that have to do with the environment? So we have more beers. That's great. If you look at this map, this is the amount of beers, micro breweries right before 2005, which is when the legislature passed. So this is 2004, and this is 2015. This is over a decade later, just about over a decade later. It increased from about 45 craft breweries in North Carolina total to 145 craft brewers in North Carolina. That number is about to increase as well because there's about 20 expected to be created. So by 2016, there will be 190 craft brewers. And this is from the NC Beer Brewing Map online. It's a timeline that you can mess around with. So how does this tie into the environment and ecology? Well, ethology, as we learned, is the study of human relationship with nature and its usage, perception, and understanding of the ecological environment around them. I think this is demonstrated within my case study because as breweries increase and they continue to be constructed and grow, they are becoming part of the urban and rural environment. They're also becoming part of the local economy, industry, and they create a subculture among them as well. Craft breweries also emphasize their local ingredients and green production. They basically have a different marketing scheme than big macro brewers, which would be like Bud Light, Coors. They know that they're local. They know that they're part of their local environment, so they capitalize on that. They also affect agriculture. Local craft breweries have been recently created a demand for locally grown and created malted products, which is used in their beers. Malted products is the main thing that's used out of state in local craft beers. It's really hard to grow these in state. However, because of the demand, farmers have started planting them, and they started to create a new system where they grow their crops, they malt it, and they present it directly to the breweries. So according to NC State, there were about 8 million gallons of beer brewed in 2013 by 120 small or microbreweries in North Carolina, and they used approximately 15 million pounds of malted barley, wheat, and rye. And in a similar article by the same author, she points out that even though malt is one of the main ingredients that's used from out of state, local breweries have created a new demand for local malts. Because of this, it's prompted the planting of different types of barley in state, and farmers to sell their own malt directly to local breweries, such as Sycamore Brewing. It's a local Charlotte brewery that uses local malt or in-state malt. And this is a map just showing how craft breweries are mapped out within our systems, and they're part of our culture and environment. So craft breweries are the craft beer industry in general is part of culture. It affects beer culture and creates culture trends. It's part of the food system, which is part of agriculture. It's also part of the food industry and the beverage industry. It's part of society, and therefore it's part of the government system, which is affected by laws, as we saw in the local interaction. It's also affected by organizations, again, by the local interactions. Had it not been for that organization of home brewers, that law would never been passed to increase the percentage of alcohol allowed. It's part of the economic system by creating small businesses, and it also affects local economy. So that's great. And that sounds a little bit too great. And what would be the negative impact of such a vast amount of craft breweries? That ties into the commons, or the category of the commons. As we learned in class, the commons are resources that are unable to exclude others' accessibility to it, and the use of it by one affects the access to the resources by others. In his thesis, Bowden argues that the tragedy of commons applies to breweries, as they should be viewed as parts of the collaborative whole, where each affects the other and their surrounding environment. He also points out that breweries continue to grow in small cities. It can also put a strain on the city's water resources and supply. Craft breweries depend on a lot on water, and they also have, not so much craft breweries, but craft brewing and production in general have a bad history of environmental harm. An example would be Coors dumping illegal ingredients into Clear Creek back in the 1980s. Main ecological worry is the vast amount of usage of resources such as water, energy, crops, and transportation to create beer, especially because water is essential in almost every process. According to Grivens, the average water use ratio for a brewery is around 7 barrels of water to create 1 barrel of beer. That's a lot. Sustainability, as we also learned, is basically meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Water facilitation and management have a big impact on the sustainability and ecological impact of craft breweries. This is something that was re-emphasized not in just McWilliams' article, but also in both theses I found on the sustainability of craft brewers. Water plays a big key ingredient into beer. It's the main ingredient. It's used for transportation, growing crops, facility management, sanitation, how you handle it, and how you recycle it, waste it, whatever way you touch it has a big impact on your sustainability and your ecological footprint. So what are the solutions? Something that came up in these articles and theses are outlined here. A Portland craft brewery teamed up with Water, which is a startup in the city, to reuse its wastewater in order to increase its sustainability. Sierra Nevada and Belgium, both of which have each opened a facility in North Carolina recently, have an ecological ethos to their company's production since their creation, reusing their wastewater as well as maximizing resources, overseeing and monitoring their use of energy, using solar power. Sierra Nevada also has a sustainability report that's available online for their consumers, so they're pretty transparent. Both physicists came up with proposals on how breweries can increase their sustainability. That includes reducing the energy used by water by using tankless water heaters, heat pumps, and solar heating. The Swedish thesis proposed that recapturing rainwater, having water filtration systems, and using other materials used in the brewing process can also increase a microbrewery's sustainability. An example or a local example of this would be Birdsong Brewery, which I toured and interviewed for this project. They implement eco-friendly practices such as reusing and recycling peanuts that their clients consume. Their workers bike to work as much as they can. They recycle water, and they use as much as local vendors as they can. An example would be a very famous beer they produce is the Jalapeno Pale Ale, and that was created by local vendors. byproducts or of a local farm, peppers and jalapenos used from local farms that they had an excess of, and the brewers basically experimented with, and that's what they created. Because of the tour and the introductory thing, one cool thing I noted that's very hard to cite in a tour and a guide was, and it relates to ethnology and how humans relate to their surroundings, is the fact that in a brewery tour, people are interacting with the natural things that made the beer they're consuming. So that's really cool. That creates a relationship that it's very hard to recreate in a restaurant or something else that you're consuming. So seeing and touching the hops, the barley, the wheat, everything that goes into your beer, and then seeing the entire process and the end result, it creates a new, I don't want to say relationship, but it can create a new subculture of consumers within the beer industry and local industry as they become such a big part of our local economy.